Michigan is absolutely a critical state for the presidential election. Many of the issues that matter across the state, across the country, also very much resonating here in Michigan. Talking about reproductive freedom, talking about gun violence prevention, talking about kitchen table economic issues and making sure that families are able to make ends meet. It could be a close election across the country, but also in Michigan. But here in Michigan, knowing how important it is that we are talking about economic issues, talking about giving folks a living wage, making sure that we have an economy that really works for everyone, making things more affordable. And then, of course, we are the Great Lakes state. We are surrounded by fresh water. Water is something that Michiganders care deeply about, and protecting our natural resources and our public health. The Harris-Walz campaign put out a plan around housing. They have put out a plan around price gouging. They've put out policies around making things more affordable. They've put out plans around supporting small businesses. So I think that we see just a pretty big contrast, actually, in terms of like the policies that are being put out there by the Harris-Walz campaign. And also, I think it was very meaningful that Vice President Harris specifically used the words freedom and self-determination when describing her goals for the Palestinian people. And so we've got to continue to see more of that. And I think that it will make a big difference. There are differing views within the Taiwanese American community about Taiwan-China issues, for example. But and there are definitely Democrats. There are also Republicans within the Taiwanese American community. I think there's plenty that have always been Democrats, including my parents and many of their friends who are immigrants from Taiwan. I'm a proud daughter of Taiwanese American immigrants who are pro-independence and strongly believe in Taiwan as a country that deserves its own sovereignty and its place in world organizations. And as far as how people will vote in November, I think that some of that will, again, depend on what candidates say over the next 2 months. But I think that there are many people who recognize the racist and xenophobic remarks that former President Trump used during the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, and the impact that had on the wave of anti-Asian hate and bias incidents and harassment and discrimination that happened during the pandemic, and that is still going on. Maybe to a little bit of a lesser degree, but still happening. Taiwan-China issues actually, in a way, have actually been very bipartisan, which is a good thing, and it should be bipartisan. In Michigan, we have a Taiwan Friendship Caucus in the Michigan legislature, and it's both Democrats and Republicans, and we share the same goals in supporting, fostering a relationship between Michigan and Taiwan. Governor Whitmer actually has been to Taiwan twice, and Taiwan is the only other nation that she's actually been to more than one time. And so that relationship is there, and it's strong, and it's actually built on a bipartisan nature. Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander population is the fastest growing across the country. It's also the fastest growing in Michigan. Between 2010 and 2020, the growth of the Asian American community actually was 4 times the growth rate of all the entire state's population. It's a significant factor in terms of the success of our state. And I think in terms of looking at this election, especially knowing how close previous presidential elections have been in this state, absolutely, I think Asian Americans could be a critical piece of who wins this election. And so that's why it's so important that both candidates are talking with Asian American voters, with Taiwanese American voters, and really making the case for what they will do for the Asian American community, but also more broadly, all Americans.